Boost up, Ultraman Trigger.
I don't have a lot to say on this episode because it didn't really give me a lot to work with. I don't know what it was, but this episode just didn't feel very substantial at all. We get background on Akito explaining his origin. This beast from the past, the first monster, Death Drago, shows up. It's a classic, like, oh, you can't fight. You got too much personal stuff at stake here. You're gonna screw up and not focus on the mission here, which he does. He prioritizes defeating the monster instead of saving civilians, and he gets suspended. I guess it just didn't feel like it was that big of a thing, because it's kind of funny. They suspend him for 3 days at the beginning of the episode, and then once he breaks that suspension at the end of the day, he gets suspended for his suspension is increased for 3 days. And Kengo and Yuna are sort of like, oh great, that's great, we're happy for you. I guess the idea was that it wasn't worse, but at the same time it feels weird that he very clearly disobeyed the order again, and they just were like, okay, well, an extra 3 days, but it's okay, buddy, just cool off, you'll be fine. It just felt kind of weird. It took me out of it in a way, because it made it feel like there was less at stake for him to break the suspension, and that the initial suspension itself didn't hold a massive amount of weight. It just didn't feel like that meaty of an episode to me. I don't know what it is, but like, it just felt like it was half the length that it actually was. And just knowing that, like, we're about a fifth of the way through the show, and I'm not really feeling the core three main characters, and they haven't gone far enough in the story for me to feel interested by them, and it's just really, I'm just struggling to get super attached to them. But yeah, really the only other thought I had was that Dargon being the one to sort of have this whole thing with Yuna in this episode, I thought that was interesting. I don't know how I feel. The whole thing where, like, she's like, oh, you can't beat humanity, and that, like, resonates in his head, and he remembers it, and that's the ending of the episode. I like that part. I just don't know how I feel about the fact that it was a slap across the face, because I don't know. But yeah, it was a very middle of the road episode for me this week, and next episode looks really fun. I just really don't know how I'm feeling about the show as a whole right now because of how this episode was. But yeah, Sundays.